Back in 2013, one man pulled back the curtain on a global surveillance system so huge, so pervasive, it completely changed how we think about technology. This is the story of Edward Snowden and the secrets that, well, shook the entire world. Yeah, those are Snowden's own words. He was writing about those last few days, right before he walked away from his entire life and straight into the history books. It just perfectly captures that feeling, right? The tension of a man about to pull the pin on a global grenade. So, our story, it doesn't start at the beginning. No, we're jumping right into the middle of the storm, into a hotel room in Hong Kong with the man who was about to become the most wanted person on the planet. Just try to picture it. It's June 2013. You've got this 29-year-old IT guy, a contractor, all alone in room 1014 of the Miro Hotel. And he's holding the keys to the biggest intelligence leak in history. He's about to hand them over, and he knows that the second he does that, his old life is just gone. And I mean, the contrast is just, wow. 1 minute, he's this NSA contractor in Hawaii with unlimited access to pretty much everyone's communications across the globe. The next, he's a global fugitive, his passport gets canceled while he's in the air, and he literally gets stuck in a Moscow airport for 40 days. And it's while he's stranded there that a really crucial moment happens, one that tells you everything you need to know about his motives. He gets approached by Russia's security service, the FSB, with a job offer. He turns them down flat. And even more important, before he'd even left Hong Kong, he destroyed the cryptographic keys to all the data. He made it impossible for anyone, not Russia, not the US, to force him to give up the rest of the secrets. This wasn't about selling intel, it was about getting it out there. So, what was actually in this Pandora's box that he opened? Let's dive into some of the top secret programs that basically became household names overnight. Okay, first up, the big one, Prism. Think of it like this. It was basically a secret front door for the NSA, leading straight into the servers of the biggest tech companies on the planet. It let them collect your emails, your photos, your private documents, pretty much everything. And look, the companies involved here weren't some shady, unknown outfits. We're talking about the services you and I use every single day. The documents showed Microsoft was the very first partner, and all these other household names were then compelled to join. This gave the NSA direct access to the very backbone of our digital lives. But hold on, this wasn't just an American operation, not by a long shot. Snowden also blew the whistle on Tempora. This was a program run by GCHQ, Britain's version of the NSA. And you could argue this thing was even bigger. They were tapping directly into those massive fiber optic cables that carry all our internet traffic across the Atlantic. This quote really says it all. Snowden himself told the journalists that when it came to mass surveillance, GCHQ, the British agency, was in many ways worse than the US. That's a pretty stunning claim. Okay, so collecting this mind-boggling amount of data is one thing, right? But how in the world do you actually search through it all? Well, let's look at the terrifyingly powerful tools that made up this global dragnet. Meet Xkeyscore. The documents literally described it as the NSA's version of Google. It was a search engine so powerful that an analyst could, with just an email address, pull up pretty much your entire digital life, your emails, chats, what you've been browsing, all of it. And if you want to get a sense of the sheer scale here, just look at this number. This came from an NSA tool called Boundless Informant. In just 1 month, March 2013, the NSA collected 97 billion pieces of intelligence from computer networks around the world. Billion with a B.
And it wasn't just what you were doing online either. There was a program called Dishfire that was all about text messages. Every single day, it scooped up nearly 200 million texts from all over the globe. They called it a fishing net approach. Just grab everything and sort it out later, analyzing it for your location, your contacts, even your financial transactions.
But here's where it gets even darker. The leaks showed this wasn't just about passively collecting data. The agencies were actively hacking and manipulating things, taking their operations to a whole other level. Yeah, for me, this is one of the most chilling parts of the whole thing. These programs, with code names like Bull Run and Edgehill, weren't just about intercepting your data. Their whole purpose was to deliberately weaken and break the encryption standards that we all rely on for security. So they weren't just picking the lock, they were breaking the lock itself. It kind of makes you think of that old line, right, from the movies? It's not paranoia if they're really after you. Suddenly, the idea that the very tools built to protect us were being secretly broken by intelligence agencies, well, it didn't seem so paranoid anymore. And then you've got this group, JTRIG. This was a special unit inside Britain's GCHQ that, according to the documents, specialized in dirty tricks. Their whole mission wasn't just to watch what was happening online, but to actively manipulate it using propaganda and disinformation. So, what kind of dirty tricks are we talking about? Well, the documents laid it out. Things like manipulating online polls, faking website traffic, sending emails from spoofed addresses to make it look like it came from someone else, and even digging up private photos of people on Facebook to discredit them. This is way beyond surveillance. This is active information warfare.
And believe me, the list just keeps going. There was Teo, this team of elite government hackers. Muscular, a program that secretly tapped into the private fiber optic links between Google and Yahoo's own data centers. And then there's Optic Nerve, which vacuumed up millions of images from Yahoo webcams, including a shocking amount of explicit material from people who weren't even suspected of anything.
All right, so after all these bombshells dropped, what happened next? What was the aftermath? And where is Edward Snowden today? Well, the fallout was, immediate, and it's been going on for years. By 2015, the U.S. Congress actually passed the USA Freedom Act, which did reform some of that bulk data collection. Then, in 2020, a U.S. court officially ruled that the phone surveillance program was unlawful. But for Snowden himself, the path led to exile in Russia, where he was eventually granted citizenship in 2022. So this really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? 10 years on, have things really changed? Sure, we're all a lot more aware of surveillance, and some laws have been tweaked, but with technology now more woven into our lives than ever before, have things fundamentally gotten any better? I think I'll just leave you with this final thought from Snowden himself, from just last year. It's a pretty powerful and maybe cynical reflection on trust, on technology, and on the fundamental nature of power. And it forces us all to ask, in a world that runs on data, who do we trust to watch the watchers?